Well, it's my pleasure to welcome you to our January programming meeting. I'm Kathy Barton, president of San Fernando Valley Audubon Society. And I would like to in turn introduce Joanne Milius, who is our program chair, who will introduce our most esteemed guest.
Thank you. Yes, I'm really looking forward to hearing, Jackie, I'm not sure about how to pronounce your last name. I should have asked you.
It's okay, Kuang.
Kuang, okay. I'm introducing Jackie Kuang, and she is a guide and a trainer in forest bathing, which is something we've been kind of looking into ourselves in our Audubon chapter. And, in this age of meditation and mindfulness and, I'm really looking forward to learning about how you do something like that in the wilderness or whatever wilderness we have out here.
Mm.
And I'm really interested in finding out more about it. I know nothing about it, even though, we've known that Jackie's going to be speaking about it. So maybe we can take advantage of it sometime. And we might even, for those of you interested, we're thinking about booking a forest bathing experience, but that'll be after we hear this, and we'll let everyone know. And let's see. So yeah, Jackie's been training for a while, and she actually just told me that she's going to Costa Rica for a training meeting in February, and that it's all over the world. This is done all over the world. So with that, I'll let you get on with your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Joanne and Kathy. What an honor it is to be in this circle of just beautiful people that are that have the heart to connect. And forest bathing is one way. Is one way. Bird watching is an excellent way. And even going on a naturalistic walk, there are so many ways that we can be out in nature, spending time. Forest bathing, it's really like an ancient practice made new. Got it. Spot. I'm in the spotlight now. And I'm going to share a screen and go through a few slides, not many. And I want to leave a lot of time for some interaction, Q&A. And then I'd like to have at least half of this presentation to be an experiential, just for you to get kind of like a taste, like a sample, a little sample of something, and then you can decide that, oh, I like this, I want more, and then maybe arrange that in-person forest bathing walk in San Fernando Valley. So let me bring my screen up. I think it was this one. Give me a thumbs up if you can see it. Awesome. Okay. I'm going to close this and great. All right. I was mentioning there are different ways people enjoy nature. Hiking is one. Oh, this is doing it automatically. Okay, so. And people can go biking, fishing, boating, birding, nature education walks. And what else? There are probably a whole list of ways to be out there, and forest bathing is one of them. And this practice, forest bathing and forest therapy are used interchangeably, and at the Association of Nature and Forest Therapy, we call it forest therapy. And that word therapy, sorry about this. It doesn't mean that we show up as therapists. We actually show up as guides, forest therapy guides. And we have a saying, the forest is the therapist. A guide opens the doors. And I'm going to kind of show you how we do that as guides. So Shinrin-yoku is a term that was coined in Japan in the 1980s. And that's when Japan was experiencing a tech boom, and the government started to see a lot of stress-related diseases like heart disease, cancer, and they even have a word that's I forgot the Japanese, but death by overwork. Right? People are just working. So they had this idea, because intuitively we know nature is good for us. And Japan is like 90% forest, it's an island or beach. So on weekends, people rush to the beach they take a train to the beach area, and they go sunbathe, beach bathing. So part of it is to try to get people to the rural areas where there are all these forests, and to help boost the economy there. And part of it is they really were curious to see what are the actual effects. So they did measurements. They set up stations and would take people's blood pressure, saliva for stress hormones, and heart rate. Then they send people on these designed trails for 2 to 3 hours. Then at the end, they take these markers again, and consistently they saw heart rate lowered, blood pressure came down, breathing was deeper, all the stress hormones were decreased. So they go, wow. And so that started to kind of spread. In Japan, Dr. Qing Li actually calls it forest medicine. He says, some people study forest, other people study medicine. I study forest medicine. So Shinrin-yoku, this word, literally translated as a forest bath or forest bathing. But I always joke, like, no towels are needed. You don't need to change, into bathing suits. It's really emphasizing the sensory connection and tuning into the intelligence of the body to have direct contact with the natural world. And so I tell people that this is not a naturalistic walk where we're going to be learning like knowledge and labels and different things, although that's important. And this is not a hike, because a hike is about getting from point A to B, right? There's a goal. This is actually more about being here rather than getting there. It's about being in the present moment and paying attention to what is going on with us. Okay, so this is that famous quote: the forest is the therapist, the guide opens the doors. And so what is a forest bathing walk like? All fitness levels are welcome. It's really easy, gentle trails, typically 2 to 4 hours. It can be shorter or longer. It's very customizable. We don't cover much ground, and we don't generate a lot of body heat. And you get sensory connecting invitations. And we use the word invitation very intentionally. It's not an exercise. And invitation is just that. It's like a suggestion. And we encourage people to really kind of tune into how these invitations land in their bodies. Like, for example, if something just didn't land well, you go, I don't really feel like doing that. It's completely okay to just follow your body and follow your heart. So there's no right or wrong way of doing an invitation. So these are some of the effects. A lot of studies have been done, how it lowers cortisol, increases NK cells, which really is a marker for immune response, lower the pulse and blood pressure. I can go on, and these are like physiological ways. I often just tell people it's a reset of your nervous system. It activates the parasympathetic nerve activity, which is in charge of rest and digest. That's why you can feel like, oh, I can breathe deeper, right? And then the sympathetic nerve activity is the fight, flight, right? You get work done, which is also important, but we need kind of a balance. Then I'm not going to bore you with all of the studies, but it goes beyond the physiological. Psychologically, we just feel better, right? So for mental health, especially nowadays, people are doing more and more studies about that, about like the psychological, because in nature we see mirrors, the psychological mirrors everywhere. I guess I'll just go to this last slide about kind of, we've been around for 10 years, the Association of Nature and Forest Therapy, and we've really trained over 2,000 guides. And this year we have 18 cohorts. Each cohort is 20 to 30 people. So if anyone of you want to read more about forest bathing and scientific studies and things like that, you're welcome to visit anft.earth. That's just the website. So at this point, I'm going to discuss and share some stories and people's response, and then open up for questions and answers. And then we'll dive into an experiential piece. So I became a guide in 2017, and people often ask me, so how did you find, what made you want to become a guide? My background was very different. I was a CPA, I was a teacher. I really, looking back, I was very disconnected. I never really, went to bird watch or noticed those kind of things. And one day I was just driving in San Gabriel, actually in Monterey Park specifically, because I lived there. And I was on Garvey and stuck in traffic. And then I look out the window, the car window, kind of really frustrated, Then all of a sudden, I just noticed this grove or group of just magnificent trees in the center divider. And the wind came and they were, the branches were waving, and I was a little bit mesmerized. And I it's the best words I can find. It was as if I was seeing them for the first time, and that they were seeing me too, almost like waving at me. And so I went home, and there's a desire to go, what just happened, and why haven't I noticed these trees, even though I lived in this area for like over a decade? And so I just opened up Dr. Google and put in the search, and I didn't know what to put in it. So I just simply put trees. And so of course I got like, do you want tree trimming service? Do you want to buy trees? Something like that. And a few items down, I landed on this website, anft.earth. And I started reading everything, and it just, there's this feeling, it's not here. It's the heart that just feels pulled, and things started to really resonate. And then I was like, wow, the tuition is really high. But I decided to tell my husband. It was a white lie. I said, I really want to do something. I want to go camping for a week. I've never done it. And he said, well, okay, make sure you're safe. You need to tell me where you're going, and that's fine as long as. So I took the plunge, and the rest is kind of history, because when I was there, I was able to, there was no Wi-Fi. So I was able to leave my phone behind and be immersed in the natural world, and started to hear the trees, being able to like actually just hear. I was humming and then got the lyrics from the trees, and it was just a kind of a very extraordinary experience. So that's my story. And when I became a guide, I realized how accessible this 2 to 3 hours is. So I went to the LA Arboretum, because it's a really beautiful place. So I said, I think this place is really good for forest bathing. And the education director said, what is that? So I just, did a 2-minute, it came from my heart. It's just my experience, what I learned. And then at that moment, I saw his eyes kind of light up, and he said, we've been looking for something new. We've been looking for a program like this. Can you guide the staff and just have us experience it? So starting, I think in 2018, springtime, it just started to become a really popular program there. So I had to recruit other guys, so every Saturday, and then every Saturday we would do it, and it's always full, like, we maxed the people at 15, which is full. And then we added full moon walks at the LA Arboretum. So if you ever are in the Arcadia, LA area, I would recommend that you look that up, and to just have an experience of that. So people tend to say, even after 10, 15 minutes, they go, I feel more relaxed. I can feel my heartbeat. And then at the end of the 2 to 3 hours, what I notice is, one, people are super connected. They show up as strangers, and then at the end of the 2 to 3 hours, they feel like they've really gotten to know each other. And so they plan other activities together, or friends that show up, or family, they feel like they have a deeper understanding of each other. And then words like, this is life-changing or transformative. So I often get surprised, actually. I often get surprised. So what happens on a forest bathing walk? We follow a standard sequence. I do introduction, then I do an invitation, which we're going to experience, is to really, somebody just used mindful, right? To really pay attention to the sensations, in our body, and interact with a piece of nature. Now we're indoors, we're not out there, so we don't have as much stimuli, but it still works. We've brought this to even like nursing homes, cancer centers, schools, especially during the pandemic. So then we follow it with an invitation to help people slow down. Believe it or not, a lot of people find it really edgy to try to slow down, because we are always, going somewhere, and it, kind of, not slowing down, or smell the roses, so to speak, right? So once people slow down, then we offer a few invitations that often show up in the moment, and we call them partnership invitations, because these invitations are really the guide with the trainee taking cues from nature, from the group dynamic, and it's the main thing is it's all sensory based, right? And people can have profound experiences in that short period of time, you know. I'd like to quote a nature poet. Some of you may know her, Mary Oliver. She says, attention is the beginning or the start of devotion. And one of the reasons I'm very passionate about forest bathing or forest therapy is, in addition to all of the health benefits for humans, it's really through each walk, participants started to fall in love with the other beings, whether they're the birds or the trees or the grass or flowers. And then they really develop this deeper sense of belonging, like being part, you know, of the natural world, and not like separate, not looking at it like an exhibition, etc. So that's my short presentation. I would love questions at this point, and all is welcome. There is no simple or dumb questions, because sometimes people go, should I ask it? Yes, ask away.
So everyone attending can just raise your hand or unmute yourself.
Thank
Holler
you.
out. We don't have a terribly huge group here, and that's excellent. I think there's 10 million people in our county that need this.
Especially in this day and age, the stress, there are just more stressors, right? Yeah, I agree with you. Thank you.
And I am a retired CPA, so I understand.
I sometimes call myself a recovering CPA. So you can unmute, or if you prefer to use the chat box, that's also okay. And I will be able, as a co-host, to see chats that come in as well.
I have a question.
Yes.
Do you do this program with children as well? Do you find that it's successful with younger children? Are they able to sustain, you know, the attention and actually, I think about kids who are so used to constant stimulation from screens and activities like that. I wondered what your experience with that was.
That's a great question. I've guided a few groups of children. I don't specialize in it. We have guys that specialize in it. Stana in Toronto, Canada, for example, she's an outdoor educator, and so she guides all these campers. There are ways to modify the ways of delivering or using words. For example, with adults, when I do pleasures of presence, I provide longer pauses, and you know, I go probably for 15 to 20 minutes. And with children, I learned this the hard way. I went to China to visit my relatives. This was back in 2019, I believe, and one of my nephew's school, well, my nephew's school, they like to bring in, you know, different parents to teach making noodles or whatever their expertise was. And my nephew said, you talk about this forest bathing. Can you come, do a class for us? It was like an hour class, similar to this one, but it's in person. So when I did that invitation, there were a lot of giggles, and there were also responses, because most adults don't, respond necessarily. But kids, when you say, what do you, I wonder what sounds are around us, they will tell me exactly what, what bird or whatever. So at first I was like, oh, I've never experienced this before, but I went along with it. And that's how the guide is trained, to be able to read the field and to welcome whatever that's showing up in that moment. So it became really fun. So with children, depending on their age, you want to modify to make it more interactive. They like movements a lot. You want them to stay like in one place. That's harder. But children are natural forest bathers. And often the partnership invitations, if as a guide you take cues from them, like for example, they love to do treasure hunt, right? And if they come with a family member, a gift exchange, consider that there is a special gift for you in this forest. Wander out, find it and bring it back, right? And then of course, if there's children, and if it's in the arboretum, like a found object, you don't pick things, right, from plants, etc. Yeah, so children can really benefit. And they often have like really good insights too about their noticings.
We have a question from someone. During the experience, is it mostly walking? Is being quiet encouraged?
So being quiet is encouraged, but in the introduction, the guide kind of creates a parameter, of talking about safety and awarenesses and what to expect. And there's only really one invitation, actually maybe the first two, that we encourage quietness. And the rest of it, we don't, put those kind of words in our invitations, but people tend to be in that space because they've dropped in. But I also offer, depending on, the group, interactive ones too, even with adults. I'll give you one example, like camera and mirror is one where instead of using our phones or a camera to capture something that really touched us, right? We can consider this whole body as a very sophisticated camera, and that we can pair people up into two, and it's a lot of fun because people have different angles. They see something, and then the other partner is like the camera. They take the camera, have them, if they feel comfortable, close their eyes, and then position them in a way, and then say camera. The camera opens eyes, and often there's that element of like awe and surprise. So that, it's not quiet. You hear giggles or wows and things like that quite a bit. Yeah, so it depends.
So how many people normally go on how large is a group in the forest bathing?
At least one participant. So I offer one-on-one. I call it sister walks. I guide couples. And I've also guided corporate groups that are like 20 plus people, 20, 25 people. My own preferred sweet spot for in-person walks is around 8 people, like maybe 8 to 10. Yeah. So the groups at the LA Arboretum, they were consistently large, like 15. And in a 2-hour walk, I felt like I'd like to offer more invitations, but I couldn't offer too many. But it still really worked. And I learned to lean into my edge of guiding bigger groups.
I think Paula has.
Yeah, I wanted to ask a question of, do you feel that these walks work better when people are going to a location for the first time? Or that it, rather than someplace they've been on many occasions?
That is a great question. When I first became a guide, I thought it needs to be, this new place for people, preferably with a waterfall. And so I guided in Monrovia Canyon Park quite a bit. And it's really beautiful. People had great experiences there. We even encountered bears a couple of times, which was interesting. The bears didn't want to bother us. They were actually more afraid of people when you show up in a group. But it's just amazing. What I learned, especially during the pandemic, when I couldn't take people anywhere, there's no in-person. So I said, I wonder if I could still remotely guide people, especially people who feel isolated. They are kind of cooped up, in their house. And the surprise finding is that even their own yard that they thought they knew everything there, by slowing down and paying attention, they appreciate it so much more. I'll give you an extreme example. I was guiding, and because of weather, somebody basically through Zoom did the experience indoors in a small apartment. And she said, wow, I've never noticed how intricate the woodwork the woodwork in this apartment is, and I've lived here for 3 years, or 4, something like that. So my philosophy is that it really can be done anywhere. The last example is I guided a group of 5 people in the woods here. I live in Prescott, Arizona. I moved here right before the pandemic. And so last year I guided people. I guided 5 people, 7 walks. Every walk is in the exact same spot. It's just like a grove of ponderosa trees. And I was also wondering, would they get bored? They were wondering, would I get bored? The answer is no. They realize, wow, it's not always the same. Like even though it's the same place, it's constantly changing. There's always new things to discover. So yeah, so both. You can take people to these more exotic or new places, but a place you're familiar with, it just works just fine. I've had people who work at the Highland Center where I guide. It's a Highland Center for Natural History. People who worked there, when I guided that first pilot walk for the staff, they said, wow, I've worked here for a decade or more, and I'm out all the time, but I've never experienced like the trees and the rocks like I did today. So I hope that's helpful.
Excellent, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I saw some chats. Let me see if there's any questions in the chats. Okay. During the experiences, mostly walking. There's some walking. There's also sitting, and actually, there's always options. Even for example, there's one particular invitation for people to wander. And to notice, what's in motion, like, what's moving. And in that invitation, guys often add, if something got your curiosity going, feel free to pause and maybe be there the whole time. And some people do that. Some people wander out, and some people just stay in one place. And when I give an invitation of a sit spot, like let your body guide you to a place where it just feels right to be. There's nothing to accomplish. I'll call you back in about 20 minutes. I sometimes give the alternative. And if it feels better for you to actually wander in that spot, that's welcome too. Because some people, they find sitting still is too edgy or too hard, and they want to do wanders, that's fine too. But some people just love to sit somewhere, watch the water, listen to the birds, and just be there and just observe what unfolds. Yeah. Okay, and I think, that one I asked about the quiet part. Do you ask for responses from the participants as you guide the walk? That's another excellent question. So the way we got trained is it's a little different than the Shinrin-yoku walk in Japan, because we got inspired by this concept, but we had no idea, or the founder Amos had no idea exactly what goes on the walk. So he really guided a lot of friends and worked out this optimal flow. And by bringing in his other experiences, like wilderness guiding in his younger years, and then he later became a psychotherapist, and he also had a restorative justice led those kind of workshops. And so he brought in a lot of elements. So basically on the walk, we offer an invitation, people go out, have their own experience. It could be as simple as, I just felt like super relaxed, to the tree talked to me and I was able to process grief or whatever it is, right? So it can be a spectrum of things. So once we give the invitation, then we call people back, and we give a prompt for people to gather. We call that practice gather, share, and listen, and to speak from the heart and to listen with the heart. There's no need to agree, disagree, respond. It's just as a group holding that space for the person, whatever it is that they're sharing, to be witnessed. And it's just really powerful. And the thing is, there's no obligation. You're not expected to have to say anything. Sometimes the words are not enough to describe some things that people may be feeling. And so when I give a prompt, I would say, all is welcome. You can share in words. And if you're moved to share in gestures, that's totally fine. And silence can be its own potent way of sharing. Because sometimes people just don't want to speak. They want to be in that space of being silent. And sometimes people can't find words because it's so limiting. It can't quite, capture, that moment or all of these nuanced feelings or sensations in their body. So great. Let me see if there, oh, there are some more
There's
messages.
one question, like, do they have walks in LA and how much and where?
Ah, yes. So there are actually at least half a dozen guides that have been trained by ANFT in the LA area. There are 3 or 4 guys that cover the LA Arboretum. It's in their program, their education program, and it's very popular. But they also guide groups in different areas. For example, Julie Bram, that I referred to, Marianne, she herself is a psychotherapist. So besides seeing her clients, she guides forest therapy walks. And she also has like Zoom meditation, mindfulness, like meditation. Those are her offerings. And Ben Page, who's one of the first guides there, first certified guides there. He guides, in addition to the Arboretum, he guides in the San Bernardino, I want to say San Bernardino, Switzer Falls. It's part of the national forest, and in gardens and private. He's guided in universities, yeah, things like that. There are at least half a dozen guides there. Oh, so when it depends, right? But if you go on the Los Angeles Arboretum website, that's one place. There was another garden that also embraced this program. So the when is, I know that there's every Saturday, but now they added an evening one. And don't quote me because I don't remember which evening. And then the cost for the public walks, where you just go sign up, is typically around $30. And depending on location, some people charge like $40, per person. Here in Prescott, I charge between $40 to $50, but I do a 3-hour walk. Private walks are more expensive, and people sometimes want to have a special like celebration to get a group of people together, and that's more reasonable, per person as well. Like my one-on-one forest therapy walk is $150 for an hour and a half, because it's one person, and $200 for a couple's walk. So guys, can kind of do their own pricing. Are you still a guide at the Arboretum? I wish. I really missed the Arboretum, but there are excellent guides there now. How do people prepare to lead a walk? How do you choose which invitations to offer? We actually do a pretty strenuous training of 6 months to learn the language of invitation, the way of the guide, which is a different kind of a leadership. It's very it's a little bit out of the box. So by doing a training, you can also read some books, like Amos wrote a book called Your Guide to Forest Bathing, and in it he talks about the optimal flow and different things. And I know some people have self-guided their own walks, or just experimented with guiding their own family or friends, right? So that's another way without having to go into a training. Would you mind?
Oh,
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
go ahead.
I was gonna say, it's about 7:46. Do you want to do the experiential thing?
Yeah,
Oh,
yes, I would love to do that. And let me just read the questions I may be able to email some answers. Would you mind sharing some stories of people communicating with me? Okay, so that is a big one. There's so many stories to share, and then today, yeah, I think I really want you to experience a piece of it. I've got a message from an oak tree that says, I love you and forever. So like it just brought tears to me. What is a training program for guys? Intel. Go to the website. There's a lot of information there. Yes, San Diego Botanic Garden has walks once a month. Excellent. Okay. I'm going to close this chat box. I'm wondering if, thank you everybody. I'm wondering if you have brought an item, whether it's a fruit of some kind that fits nicely in your palm, or a rock, or anything. It could be something else. I see somebody grabbing a fruit just now. Yay, an orange. If you don't have something, it's still okay to experience this, because then you could use your own fist. But let's see. Is everybody back? All right. I am going to guide you on this one that will take about 10 minutes. But I'm going to be off video. You can stay on or off video as you please. I just feel more comfortable to be off video for this one. So if that's okay with you, I'm going to just turn off the video. And if it feels good for you, anytime during this experience, you can allow your eyes to gently close over, or just keep kind of a soft focus. And start to just notice the way you are breathing right now. Noticing how the air comes into your body, going into your lungs, nourishing you. And perhaps on the exhale, just noticing how it's gently leaving your body. Noticing the air outside of us, around us. Perhaps taking out a hand or both hands, considering holding some air in your palm or palms. This air that's holding us at the same time. Noticing the sensations on your skin, on your palms right now. If you would like, allow your palms to come together until your fingertips touch. Again, noticing the sensations. You may want to gently rub your hands together. Just noticing what it feels like to allow skin to touch skin. Taking a moment to touch the skin or the outside of the item that you have with you. Just exploring the texture. And if you don't have an item, you can explore some textures on your own body. Perhaps your clothing, hair, or your own skin. Where are some rough spots? If something, some texture that just feels pleasant, invite that in. Invite that pleasure into your body. Taking a moment to bring this item to your nose. Alternatively, you can also bring your own hand close to your nose and take in a few deep breaths. And wonder if you're picking up some aromas or scents. And what might this smell or scent remind you of? Might you be curious about what this item might taste like? One way to do it is to slightly open your mouth and breathe. Breathe through your open mouth. And feel free to play with your tongue in your mouth for a moment or two. What taste might you be picking up? Is it salty? Is it sweet? Or just a mixture of the taste of your own mouth? I wonder what sound may this being in your hand make? Perhaps gently tap on it. Maybe bring it close to your ear, to one ear. And extending your hearing outward a bit. What other sounds are in your space right now? If you would like, elevate your own breathing. to add your own soft sounds to this concert, this ongoing symphony. And if there's something that just feels pleasing or pleasant, invite it in. Revel in it. Taking a moment to place this item or your own palms on your heart region, under your chest area where your heart resides. Might you be feeling your own heartbeat? In a moment, not quite yet, I'm going to invite you to open your eyes. When I do, I'd like you to consider that you are seeing this being in your hand and everything around you for the very first time. So taking in a deeper breath, and whenever you're ready, taking a moment to gaze at the being in your hand or anything else around you. And when you're ready, come back to our virtual circle, and if you would like, you can come back onto the video. Welcome back, everybody. And this is typically where we get to share, but since we're a large group, I'm going to invite, and somebody already started, I'm going to just invite you to type something in the chat box if you would like. It could just be as simple as one word or just a couple of words. And as they come in, I'll just read them out loud without reading your names. And as a way to end this session. That was so relaxing. Symphony of sounds. Enjoyed it. Great meditation. Warming fire. Golden Tom Yum berry begins a golden life. I like the idea of seeing things for the first time again, like a child. Fragrant pine needles. That was unexpected for me. I was surprised how pleasant it was to simply cradle a grapefruit in my two hands. It engaged all the senses, soothing and a fragrant aroma of oranges. sounds of the wind singing. Thank you. Wonderful to be totally in the present. I visualize what tree this pine cone came from 20 years ago. Thank you so much for your presentation. Well, thank you. It's such an honor. I was surprised myself by the aroma of this rock that came from a beach in California. That's one thing I miss is the beaches in California. I can smell the sand and the ocean. So it's wonderful. So I'm going to hand it back to Joanne, I believe. One more message. I felt the journey of this seashell.
There's a seashell. Well, thank you so much for this presentation. We all really enjoyed it, and we got a little bit of relaxation as well, which doesn't usually happen at our meetings. And thank you so much. I now know a lot more about forest bathing, and I'm looking forward to it. And
Thank you.
good luck in Arizona.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I so enjoyed this. And don't be surprised if you sleep better tonight because your parasympathetic nervous system is probably kicked in. And that was just a taste. It's such a pleasure. I really appreciate this opportunity. I love you all. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, Jackie. Thank you, Joanne, for arranging that. Before we sign off, I just want to remind everyone that our next program meeting is February 23, where we will see a presentation by Morgan Tingley, Associate Professor of Ecology and Evolutionary Biology, on the effect of fire on California birds. A very, very timely subject. I also want to urge, and as always, you can go to our website for more information and to register for an email invite. I also want to urge everyone who's local to attend the Sepulveda Basin Vision Plan Community Open House, February 8th, from 6 to 8 p.m. At the Encino Community Center in Encino Park. This is the first of, I believe, a series of meetings being held to present the vision plan that's being developed for the Sepulveda Basin. This will affect all of us who live in the valley and who consider the basin to be a part of our backyard. And so I urge everyone who can to come and attend this meeting and have an opportunity to express your opinion, to see what the plan is, and have some input into this process. And again, I want to thank Jackie for a wonderful, relaxing, and informative presentation.
Thank you, everyone. I hope to meet some of you at least someday in person.
Thank
Sounds
you.
good.
Bye.